Fantasy Baseball Picks and Bets presented by Prize Picks. JT Hayes, run Pure Sports at JT Hayes Jr. on Twitter.com. If you've been following us all season long, you know all about Prize Picks. They set an under or over number of points using DraftKings scoring. Our job, which we help you with every single day of the week, is to pick the over or under for that player on that day. And a lot of people who've been watching these videos and subscribing to the Mayo Media Network, as well as Run Pure Sports, have been winning a ton of money based on our information and watching these videos. So if you're not already a subscriber, if you don't have an account at prizepicks.com, you should go there and use code MMN MLB. That's MMN, like Mayo Media Network, MLB, and you'll get a $100 deposit match. Now, in order to take full advantage, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network if you're not already doing so, and like this video. Once again, MMN MLB, get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com. Monday night features a 10-game slate on DraftKings. Not a whole lot of picks up as I'm recording this video, and as I always say, things could change. That's why if you're watching this video and you see that I'm only focusing on one game here, there's definitely more to come, and you should get on over to Run Pure Sports or RunPureBets.com. Enter code RPSNFL15. That gives you 15% off of not just your first payment, but the lifetime of your subscription. RPSNFL15. We have a dedicated channel in our Discord to Prize Picks for every sport, just like the Mayo Media Network. A couple of picks that are listed that I like as of right now. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, as we're told we're supposed to say. They travel. They played a day game in Los Angeles against the Houston Astros. They travel cross country tonight to take on the New York Yankees. They're heading home from a pretty decent weekend series in Chicago, and the Angels are going to send Jose Suarez to the mound. Jose Suarez has been hit and miss, but he certainly gives up a ton of power, and this Yankees team is starting to click at the right time. They picked up Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo at the trade deadline. Anthony Rizzo still on the COVID-19 IL, but Joey Gallo has been putting it together. Hit a couple of home runs on Saturday evening. And I like this matchup for a couple of the New York Yankees. I like the matchup, and I like the picks, the line that Prize Picks set for us. Going to start with the leadoff hitter, DJ LeMahieu. I'm going to take the over here, 6.5 fantasy points. Think that leading off against Jose Suarez and the Angels bullpen, he'll get 4, he might even get 5 at-bats in this game. I think he easily goes over 6.5. Giancarlo Stanton, if you paid attention to anything about Major League Baseball over the last 5 seasons, you know that Stanton, pretty good hitter against left-handed pitching. The line on him is set at 7.5. And even though I don't love the Angels as a whole against Garrett Cole coming off the COVID-19 IL, a little bit more about that in a minute, I do think that the line for Shohei Ohtani, one of the most dynamic players that I've seen in my generation in Major League Baseball, is just a little bit too low here. It's at 5.5. I'm going to take the over on that as well, thinking that if he gets on base, we know that Garrett Cole is vulnerable to the stolen base. That's something that Shohei does fantastically. So 5.5, I think, is just too low here. DJ LeMahieu, over 6.5. Giancarlo Stanton, over 7.5. And Shohei Ohtani, over 5.5 fantasy points. And we're going to have a ton more. We're going to have charts. We're going to have picks. We got a number of coordinators at Run Pure Sports that exclusively work on Prize Picks. That's why you should get on over runpuresports.com. RPS NFL 15% off of your lifetime subscription. Like this video, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network. And again, if you're not a member at Prize Picks, don't have an account just yet, but you want to take advantage of all the information here, enter code MMNMLB. You'll get a $100 deposit match. We are right in the dog days of the baseball season, the dog days of August, as they call them. And while many teams are starting to separate themselves from the pack, we are seeing that even some of these teams that are not going to be competing this year, that are building for the future, that are maybe not quite tanking, but certainly aren't going to be in playoff contention this year, are putting up some pretty good fights. The Texas Rangers showed us that in their weekend series at home against the Oakland Athletics. And another team that showed us that, man, Tyler Gilbert throws a no-hitter against the San Diego Padres of all teams in his first major league start on Saturday night. Tyler Gilbert, 9 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, 102 pitches. What an amazing night for this kid. The Diamondbacks, they took 3 of 4 from the Padres in this weekend series, in large part because they were missing their superstar, Fernando Tatis Jr. Yu Darvish gets injured in his start over the weekend, where the Diamondbacks took advantage. But Fernando Tatis Jr., he returned. He returned playing a new position, put him in right field, maybe a little bit less strain on the injured shoulder, perhaps a little bit less involved in the defensive side of the game. Certainly he's very much involved playing that shortstop position. And what does Fernando Tatis Jr. do? He just shows why he's one of the most dynamic players in Major League Baseball. 2 home runs on Sunday, helping the San Diego Padres avoid a sweep at the hands of the Diamondbacks. It's going to be really interesting to see how these Padres do, because once again, losing Yu Darvish, he went on the injured list today, and it looks like the Padres are flirting with a number of pitching options, including the recently released Jake Arrieta. Looking at signing Arrieta, released by the Cubs after a disastrous performance last week. That, my friends, is desperation. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the San Diego Padres moving forward. Garrett Cole, talked about him a little bit. He's returning from the injured list, the COVID-19 injured list, on Monday to face the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. He said, look, we're not going to push any limits by any means, but he had a good bullpen. He's really excited to get back out there. Talk a little bit more about that matchup in just a couple of minutes. And Garrett Cole, the Yankees, they go into a place called Dyersville, Iowa, for a Field of Dreams game that was an exhibition of sorts in terms of the showcase put on by Major League Baseball, and they could not have done a better job. It could not have been a better game. What an amazing game to watch last week. The Field of Dreams game in Iowa, won by the Chicago White Sox, featuring, of course, Dyersville, Iowa. That stadium, if it were a regular Major League Baseball stadium, would be the 4th highest altitude in Major League Baseball. It played that way. Bunch of home runs. 2 home runs by Aaron Judge, a home run by Giancarlo Stanton, and of course, the walk-off by Timmy Anderson. And if you're Brian Cashman, if you're the New York Yankees, if you're New York Yankees fans, you got to be a little bit concerned with what you're seeing out of Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney, those of us who follow baseball, those of us who play daily fantasy sports know, this is kind of a Jekyll and Hyde guy. He comes up and bubbles up out of nowhere every now and then with a dominant performance. The rest of the time, really prone to the home run ball, prone to giving up a ton of hard contact. That's exactly what he did in altitude. Not really a surprise to anyone who follows us at Run Pure Sports. Our guy, Big T44, basically stacked that game with one of the late pitchers on FanDuel, took down $115,000. So just another reason to get on over to Run Pure Sports. But back to my original point. If you're Cashman, if you're Yankees fans, you really need to see Andrew Heaney turn it around, or you're not going to be long, Yankees fans, for that American League East pennant race. All right, so finally, we get on to the 10-game Monday night slate on DraftKings. A lot of very interesting travel as it sets up for this slate. Couple of cross-country trips here to keep in mind. The Los Angeles Angels, they played a game on Sunday afternoon. As I said before, they travel into New York. So a cross-country, let's say late afternoon, mid-afternoon flight into New York City. So keep an eye on that. And then the Dodgers playing Sunday Night Baseball. And then they have to travel back cross-country to Los Angeles to host the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Mets hosting Sunday Night Baseball. And they travel cross-country as well. They're going out to San Francisco, take on not only one of the hottest teams, but one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. So a pretty heavy trip coming off of a unexciting series, unexciting performance if you're a Mets fan against the Los Angeles Dodgers. The commentators on Sunday Night Baseball talking about how people thought that maybe before the series this was some type of preview of October. No, I really don't think so. I don't think you're going to see the Mets in October. And then, as I mentioned, Pittsburgh going into Los Angeles. They played a day game in Pittsburgh. They'll travel cross-country as well. So a couple of teams haven't announced their starters just of yet. At least They haven't officially announced their starters. We're guessing that Rich Hill is going to be the starter for the New York Mets, and not sure who's going to start on Monday night for the Los Angeles Dodgers. But, again, things change. That's why you should always check in with Run Pure Sports. Use code RPS NFL 15. It gives you 15% off of your lifetime subscription. There are 2 pitchers up top, and only 2 pitchers up top in terms of salary on DraftKings on Monday night. Those 2 pitchers, Garrett Cole, coming off the injured list. He hasn't pitched since late July, and he's 10.9K on DraftKings. I absolutely love this matchup. The Angels traveling cross country to Yankee Stadium. The Angels have been hit by the injury bug, to say the least. Obviously, still 2 very powerful left-handed hitters, Shohei Ohtani and Jared Walsh in that lineup, but missing Trout, missing Rendon. Justin Upton just come back from the injured list and traveling cross country. It's just not a great matchup. I love the matchup. I don't love the price. I don't love the fact that Garrett Cole has said that, hey, we're not going to push any limits. And at 10.9K, I'm thinking as I record this video that perhaps he's going to be a pretty decent fade. I expect that he'll be popular because of the matchup, because of the name, and we'll have to see what happens. But as of right now, if I was going to pay up for a pitcher on DraftKings, it's going to be Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman, the Giants stay home, played a weekend series against the Rockies in San Francisco. They don't have to go anywhere, and they get the New York Mets, a teetering New York Mets club coming into San Francisco. Rich Hill going to be starting the game, supposedly, allegedly, opposite of Kevin Gausman. I expect that this is a game that the Giants should win pretty handily, and I don't love the 10.1 price on Gausman. Been a little bit of a different pitcher since the substance crackdown. But if I was going to pay up for a high-priced pitcher, it would be Gausman over Cole as of right now. I don't think this Mets offense certainly doesn't travel all that well, and they just haven't looked good. ESPN tonight on the broadcast putting up a statistic that in their last 23 games, they haven't scored more than 6 runs in any single one of them, and most times it's been a lot less than that. So I think Gausman, with his change of speeds, mix of pitches, is in a good enough spot against the Mets team. Again, don't know yet if it's worth 10.1K. Have to dig in a little bit more tomorrow, see what Vegas thinks, see a couple of other things. Another pitcher I like quite a bit, they get to return home, the Cincinnati Reds, Wade Miley. Kind of a down performance against the Atlanta Braves in Atlanta last week, his last start out. I like to take these guys who are experienced pitchers against inexperienced ball clubs, and the Chicago Cubs are definitely that. Of course, we all know about how they liquidated most of their major league assets at the trade deadline. Wade Miley, 8.2K against the Chicago Cubs. There's almost no doubt in my mind that the Cincinnati Reds are going to win this ball game and win this game handily, with Sonny Gray having an okay performance on Sunday, and with a bullpen that the Reds should be a little bit more reluctant to go to than some other teams. I fully expect that Wade Miley will get back on track here at just 8.2 against the Chicago Cubs. I expect he may even come in at some lower ownership, given some of the other brand names on the slate on Monday night. So, again, if I had to pay up, Kevin Gausman, and probably one of my favorite arms on the slate is going to be Wade Miley at 8.2K against the Chicago Cubs. We move on to offense, and a 10-game slate, lots of travel, and one of the teams traveling home, one of the teams that, honestly, above all others, likes to go home, loves to go home, feels more comfortable at home, actually wins some baseball games at home, the Colorado Rockies. Like I said, they spent the weekend in San Francisco. They now return home to Colorado, and they get to take on Ryan Weathers of the San Diego Padres. Now, the first game in Coors, I don't target it a lot. I don't talk a lot about Coors Field, here on these videos just because it's so obvious. But the Padres are going to gain the ownership here in this matchup between the Padres and the Rockies. Rockies sending Antonio Senzatella to the mound. Senzatella, a ground ball pitcher, has actually fared, it's hard to say he's fared well against anyone, given what we do in DFS, but he hasn't fared terribly against some of these other National League West teams. So if the Padres are going to soak up the ownership, I love the matchup for the Colorado Rockies against Ryan Weathers. Ryan Weathers is just not a good pitcher anywhere. He's just not Major League ready. And you're going to see this with the Padres. We've seen this with a number of teams this year throughout Major League Baseball. They're bringing up guys not because they're ready, not because they believe they have the skill set and the mentality to pitch in the major leagues right now. It's because they absolutely have to. Ryan Weathers pitching in the major leagues for the Padres mostly out of desperation. That's why they're considering Jake Arrieta. Weathers, 20 earned runs in his last 3 starts, including 8 earned runs given up against Colorado in San Diego. I can't imagine it's going to be a much better result for Weathers in Colorado. The Padres bullpen has been good, hasn't been great of late, but remember, bullpens suffer as well in the altitude. So a couple of guys. Connor Joe, a pretty decent player, but even better in Colorado. He's leading off somehow at 2.8K on DraftKings. Brendan Rodgers loves to hit against left-handed pitching, 4.7. We all know how good Trevor Story can be against left-handers, 5.4. And then you got to finish it off with CJ Cron, quietly having an incredible season in Colorado. CJ Cron, 4.8K. I like this Rocky stack. I think it's going to come in. I know it's going to come in lower than the Padres. I don't know if it'll be quite contrarian, but I think it's a pretty good bet to put up some runs on Monday night. Another team that returns home and gets to take on a friendly matchup, the Cincinnati Reds, weekend series in Philadelphia. They get to go home and take on the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs just been giving up tons of runs. I think they gave up somewhere in the neighborhood of 30-some runs in Miami over the weekend. They're going to start a guy named Justin Steele. And he's had a couple of starts for this Chicago Cubs team. Not really a prospect that I'm concerned about. And then once you get past Justin Steele, it's just going to be for the rest of the season the worst bullpen in Major League Baseball because they've traded all of the Major League ready pieces there. And Cincinnati Reds dealing with some injuries. Nick Castellanos came out of the game on Sunday. But still, I think there's plenty of firepower in this Cincinnati Reds lineup to take advantage of Justin Steele and the Chicago Cubs as they return home to the great American ballpark. Starting off with Johnny India. What a great baseball name, right? Almost nobody hotter in Major League Baseball than Johnny India. 4.8K. Tyler Stevenson, 4.3K. Kyle Farmer, just 3.9K on DraftKings. I always love Kyle Farmer, in particular against left-handed pitching, and then close it out with Eugenio Suarez at 3.7. Even if you don't feel comfortable with the red stack for some reason, just do me a favor. If you're playing more than a couple of lineups, do a 3-man of the red stack because the Chicago Cubs bullpen has been getting beat up on a daily basis, and I guarantee you they are going to give up at least a couple of home runs in this matchup on Monday night. So we'll finish it off with a couple of bets that are posted right now that I'm going to post at runpurebets.com. Runpurebets.com, enter the same code, RPSNFL15, for 15% off of your lifetime subscription. We've got a ton of guys over there, including my bets will be up there, the ones that I'm about to give you. I'm going to post this evening. We track our bets, and if you missed it, just in case you missed it, in case you don't believe me, you can go over there and check it out. Our guy AP put in the PGA Discord earlier this week. He said, hey, my pick to win the Wyndham Championship, 55-1, Kevin Kisner. Book it. He's going to do it. And guess what? In a 6-golfer playoff, Kevin Kisner pulls it out, 55-1. If you followed our guy AP and you put $500, if you put $1,000 on there, man, you're having a pretty good start to your week. So runpurebets.com, enter code RPSNFL15 for 15% off of your lifetime subscription. Why NFL 15? Because NFL season right around the corner. We're going to have a ton of content for that on the bet side, on the daily fantasy side, on the prize pick side. We're going to cover every slate. Showdowns, small slates, you name it. Afternoon slates, morning slates, what have you. We are going to have it all covered for you at Run Pure Sports. Getting on to the bets on Monday night. Cincinnati, talked about how I like them, and they are a minus 120 favorite with a minus 1.5 run line. And I'm going to tell you this, as our guy Joey Work at runpurebets.com always says, you should take a look and see if you can get an alternate line at better numbers. If you can get Cincinnati minus 2.5, if you can get a minus 3.5, I would go ahead and do it to get plus money because it's going to pay off. They are going to crush the Chicago Cubs on Monday night. Another one that I like, talked about the New York Mets teetering on the edge of really irrelevancy for this season. They are heading out to San Francisco, and it looks like Rich Hill is going to start that game. It doesn't matter who starts that game. This is how bad their bullpen is becoming. An honorable mention stack for DFS is the San Francisco Giants on Monday night. It's probably something that I'm going to talk about a lot when I write up my slate strategy for the DFS slate on Monday at runpuresports.com. But the Giants right now, you're getting plus money, minus 1.5 runs, plus 115. Same story. You can get 2.5. You can go all the way up to 3.5, I think, for the San Francisco Giants and get a better line on that. You can parlay those two at alternate lines. I think that they're both going to pay off. Cincinnati Reds, minus 1.5, minus 120. And the San Francisco Giants, minus 1.5, plus 115. That's it. That'll do it for this edition of the Mayo Media Network PrizePicks.com video. Once again, like this video, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network, and then if you like what you're hearing, if you're enjoying it, if you're being somewhat successful, as I think you are, playing the plays that I'm giving out in particular, go ahead and follow me at JT Hayes Jr. on Twitter.com. And get over runpuresports.com, enter code RPSNFL15, 15% off of your lifetime subscription. I don't think many other sites do that. All right, I know many other sites don't do that. They charge you for every single sport. We've just got one price. Just one price, every sport. Everything is included. runpuresports.com. Good luck on Monday night.